Welcome to Ifa Stories, where ancient wisdom meets modern storytelling. Step into the sacred tradition of Ifa, rooted in Yoruba land and shaped through centuries of interaction with neighboring West African cultures and preserved in the Lukumi tradition of the diaspora. Here we engage the Ifa divination corpus, the sacred Odu through which Òrúnmìlà reveals insight into destiny and moral order, reflected in the lives of Orisha, Irunmole, Awos, communities, and all who seek guidance. These are not distant myths, but living teachings, bridges between past and present, illuminating responsibility, consequence, and the human path. Honor the wisdom. Reflect on destiny. Journey with us into the heart of Ifa. Subscribe and let the stories speak. Learn more at ifastories.com. Introductory note. This retelling draws on a traditional account as presented in Ifism, Volume 3, The Complete Works of Òrúnmìlà, The Odus of Oyeku-si-di, by C. Osamaro Ibi. The narration and commentary in this presentation are original to Ifa Stories. Oyeku-si-di Agbaa / Ighede, Big Drum. Before the sound of the drum was ever heard on earth, there was a struggle hidden in heaven. This is not only the story of music, it is the story of honor sought through sacrifice, of danger gathering around destiny, and of a power that could not be born without trial. Agbaa, also known as Ighede, the big drum, desired dignity. He desired recognition. He desired a name that would resound in the world. But in this story, greatness is never handed over lightly. It must be revealed through divination, guarded through obedience, and tested before it can fully appear. What is about to unfold is more than the birth of 3 instruments. It is the unveiling of a law, that what carries true power into the world must first pass through sacred order. And so, before Agbaa ever stepped into the world below, the path of his destiny was opened through divination. Before Agbaa, also known as Ighede, the big drum, came down from heaven to the world, divination was performed for him. Agbaa desired honor and dignity on earth. Wanting to secure that future, he went to Oyeku-si-di in search of medicine and charms. But Òrúnmìlà told him that he did not know medicines or charms for that purpose. Instead, he said that if Agbaa wished, divination could reveal the sacrifice he needed to make before leaving heaven. Agbaa agreed, and the divination was performed. He was told to prepare 201 arrows, a long cane, and 2 cudgels. Agbaa was also told something else. He was one of 3 brothers born of the same mother. But he was warned not to reveal his sacrifice to the others, because if he did, it would fail to manifest. His 2 brothers in order of seniority were the gong, gongona in Yoruba, and egogo in Bini, and the maracas, akese in Yoruba, and ukuse in Bini. So the sacrifice was revealed, the warning was given, and the future of Agbaa stood before him. But what is prepared in secrecy does not always remain hidden for long. When the sacrificial materials had been gathered, Òrúnmìlà took the cane and tied the 201 arrows around Agbaa's head. Agbaa remained in Òrúnmìlà's house while the work was being completed. But during that time, his 2 brothers were searching for him, determined to find him and destroy him. When they heard that he was in Òrúnmìlà's house, they went there at once. When they saw Agbaa with his head bound in that strange way, they demanded to know why it had been done. Agbaa answered that he was acting under Òrúnmìlà's instruction. And now the story changes. What began as preparation turns toward danger. What was hidden is now exposed, and what should have remained protected is about to be tested through force. What began as secrecy becomes confrontation. What began as preparation becomes violence, and what seemed destined for destruction becomes the birthplace of sound. Listen carefully to what this moment reveals. Agbaa is struck, yet from his suffering comes a voice. The gong answers, and its own sound is born. The maracas responds, and another rhythm enters the world. This is the mystery at the center of the story. Conflict does not remain only conflict. Under the authority of Òrúnmìlà, chaos is interrupted, force is redirected, and rivalry is transformed into meaning. Here, the brothers are not made identical. They do not lose themselves. Instead, each one keeps his own voice, and yet those voices become greater when they are no longer raised against one another. What was once attack becomes rhythm. What was once pain becomes memory. What was once division begins to move toward harmony. And so, in the middle of violence, the voices of the three brothers began to enter the world. Then the gong, gongona in Yoruba and egogo in Bini, seized the cudgels and began striking Agbaa on the head. As he was beaten, Agbaa cried out, "Mogbo moru, Moti shebo, Oyeku-si-di," meaning, "I have made the sacrifice prescribed by Oyeku-si-di." That cry became the voice of the big drum. But the gong mocked Agbaa for crying out in pain, and his own response became a sound as well. Ara kan Agbaa, go 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 go. Ara kan Agbaa, Ara kan Agbaa, go 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 go. That became the voice of the gong when struck with a cudgel. Then the maracas, Akisi in Yoruba and Ukuse in Bini, answered in his own way, clapping as he spoke. Okpa kesh kesh, Agbaa kesh kesh. That too became the sound of the maracas. So what began as attack and hostility became something else. Out of struggle came sound. Out of conflict came rhythm. And out of rivalry came three distinct voices, each carrying its own place. But the story was not meant to end in blows, cries, and rivalry. The sound had appeared. Now it had to be given order. At that moment, Òrúnmìlà called for the fighting to stop. When the brothers ceased, he told them that the sound rising from their conflict was too beautiful to be wasted in destruction. It would be better, he said, for them to work together than to keep opposing one another. Then, with his instrument of authority, Ase, Òrúnmìlà declared that from that day forward, the three brothers would become indispensable among human beings. Whenever they were heard together, their united sound would announce joy, festivity, and something pleasant taking place. In that new spirit of reconciliation, Òrúnmìlà instructed them to make an offering to their heads together, using a rooster. They made the offering, and afterward they departed for the world. There they became a musical trio, working successfully together. That is why, to this day, the drum, the gong, and the maracas, Agbaa or Ighede, gongona or igogo, akisi or ukuse, when sounding together, produce music that brings joy and happiness. But like many sacred accounts, this story does not remain only in the past. What happened then becomes guidance for those who come later. The story does not end there. It also gives instructions for divination. When this Odu appears at Odu, the person is told that his mother has 3 children and that all 3 may become known, but that their fame will become greater if they remain united and cooperative. He is also advised to make sacrifice to Ifa with a ram, 16 snails, and 2 pigeons before completing initiation. At ordinary divination, the person is told to make an offering to Eshu with a he-goat, so that his honor and popularity will not pass into the hands of someone else. So the story leaves behind more than sound. It leaves behind instruction, warning, and a law about how honor is preserved. By the end of the story, the lesson resounds as clearly as the instruments themselves. The drum, the gong, and the maracas do not become powerful by standing apart. They become unforgettable when they sound together. That is the deeper beauty of this account. It teaches that honor is not sustained by desire alone. It must be protected through sacrifice. It must be ordered through wisdom. And it becomes fuller when divided powers are brought into the right relationship. So this is not only the story of how music entered the human world. It is the story of how conflict can be corrected, how destiny can be preserved, and how something once broken apart can be gathered into joy. And that is why, when these voices rise together, they do more than make sound. They announce their celebration. They announce harmony. They announce that what was once in struggle has now become resounding.